happening? Look here, it's a Wario. I'm hosting the greatest video game tournament of all time.
This week, WarioWare Gold arrives in stores. A curated collection of some of the best micro games in the franchise, all on one platform. It's a walkthrough of a series that's all about breaking down the conventions of video games, presenting you with a small idea and a simple execution, and doing this hundreds of times in the space of 8 seconds each. But today, I want to go a little further back than WarioWare, to a time where Wario was breaking the conventions of platform games. Mostly because I already did a video about WarioWare nearly this time last year. Look, there's a link for it in the corner. But plus because I really want to talk about a game that I don't think gets the love it deserves. One that I would put above any 2D Super Mario game would rank alongside Yoshi's Island as one of Nintendo's finest. Wario Land 4 was developed by Nintendo's Research and Development 1, the team behind the Metroid series and the later WarioWare games. It was released in 2001 as a launch window title for the Game Boy Advance. Both of these facts go towards what makes the title special, not to mention the fact that it's the 4th title in the franchise and the final to be released on a portable platform. Over the course of this video, I want to dig into what makes Wario Land 4 fantastic. I'll start by exploring the series as a whole and how it led to this game, breaking down its base elements as well as how it influenced the tone of future Wario games. So, with that out of the way, I'm GAMESD, and this is a look at Wario Land 4. So, who or what is Wario? To give a technical definition, Wario is a character that was introduced in 1992 as the antagonist and final boss of Super Mario Land 2. Wario's name is a portmanteau of the Japanese word for bad and Nintendo's most recognisable mascot, Mario. As his name suggests, he is a perversion of Mario's qualities. He's an overweight gremlin with an obsession for treasure. He's a bully that uses his immense strength and weight as his means of offence. His design exaggerates Mario's to the point that he is a parody of the prestigious plumber. He also lacks any of the dignity that Nintendo affords their main mascot. He's rude, crude, and routinely clowned on by his designers. Which is why he was the perfect candidate for his own franchise. Because at the time of Super Mario Land 2's release, the template of a 2D Super Mario game was set in stone. Super Mario World had standardised the elements that would be carried over into any future 2D title, and ultimately were in the new Super Mario Bros. Series. Each game follows the formula of reaching a flagpole at the end of an obstacle course. It's presented in a side-scrolling manner that can move horizontally, vertically, or automatically moves for you. Enemies and traps and progressions are designed around Mario performing his most noticeable feature, jumping. And finally, their aesthetic is clean, colourful, and cute. The Wario Land games, however, could be an avenue for the developers behind the Super Mario Land titles to buck these trends. And buck they did. So, what is Wario? Well, over the course of 3 Game Boy titles, the definition goes a little something like this. Wario Land is a series of puzzle platformers. That prefix is important because it changes the intention of level design and objective design from the Mario series. Levels aren't tackled by the player in a linear fashion, instead they're exploratory sandboxes, where progression forward is obfuscated or even broken up into smaller pieces. There are no bottomless pits or auto-scrolling sections, just dead ends and traps that may even lead to other opportunities. It's a little like the in-between of Mario and Metroid in that respect. Wario Land 3 is the most apt example of this design. Each level contains 4 hidden keys for 4 hidden chests. How you reach a key, and then its corresponding chest, is the challenge of each scenario. As you unlock each chest, you will change the world map in a significant fashion. Maybe you open the way ahead to a new level, change an old level, or add another ability to Wario's repertoire. These in turn open new paths to new keys and new chests, and the cycle repeats. Could these games have worked with Mario as the protagonist? Perhaps, but I think Wario's qualities are what inspired the developers to move towards this design. He's an overweight gremlin with an obsession for treasure. So by that account, he's more likely to scrub through a level to find treasure where he can. Treasure is something you're likely to hide in chests, and so a challenge can be finding them and figuring out how to open them. He's a bully that uses his immense strength and weight as his means of offence. So levels and enemies can be designed to take advantage of his immense strength and weight, whether it's breakable blocks that obscure the way ahead, or even enemies that put up more of a defence to the usual bop on the head. He's rude, crude, and routinely clowned on by his designers. Well, yeah, Wario's versatility is a product of the developers being more confident to challenge his character design. Perhaps the most obvious example of this are Wario's transformations. In the second game onward, certain enemies or environmental hazards cause Wario to go over a grotesque body shock that brings with them new abilities. These are a twist on the traditional Mario power-ups. They're not an additive improvement, they are a change. If you set him on fire, he can burn through special blocks. If you blow him up, he can float to the ceiling. If you made him overweight, he can smash through the floor. All of these elements can come together to inform a Wario scenario. So in that case, what is Wario Land 4? Well, Wario Land 4 is the natural advancement on these ideas. Levels are non-linear and exploratory. There is one key and 4 chests to find per level, in order to progress ahead to the next. You use all of Wario's offensive options and transformation abilities to hit those objectives, as well as accumulate as much treasure as you can along the way. The world map is simplified and instead is comprised of 4 zones with 4 levels apiece that need to be completed in a linear fashion towards a boss. The defeat of each boss then opens the way ahead to the final level, and then the final boss. The thing is, finding all 4 chests or a key aren't enough to kick you out of a level, as was the case in the original Wario Land games, which is where its break from its own conventions come into play. This is the frog switch. Every level has one. It can be anywhere from near the start, towards a logical endpoint, or hidden somewhere off the beaten path. But you should always find it. Why? Well, it's the only way that you can escape from a level. But the moment you activate it, Wario Land 4 transforms into an anxiety-inducing nightmare. Suddenly, a level that you've had to explore and examine for minutes is crumbling all around you. The background layer warps and distorts, and music turns into a terrifying electronic track. Do you remember where you came from? In fact, can you return that way? The frog switch doesn't just kick up a countdown, it may also change level geometry by blocking or opening new paths. In some cases, it may even change a level identity entirely, turning a hot zone into an ice field, shuffling open doors in a hotel, or waking up a ghost who steals your key as you try to escape. The developers even mess with your expectations by hiding chests and even the key behind frog-blocked areas, so you have to put yourself in danger in order to fully complete a level. It's this split between slow and steady exploration and full speed escape that gives Wario Land 4 a taste unlike any other game in the series, and even any other Mario game for that matter. It's like the 2 big set pieces of a Metroid game in under a minute. Which I guess isn't such a strange comparison considering the developers behind the Wario games are responsible for the Metroid series. They even reused Wario Land's 4 engine for Metroid Fusion. Just a cool fact I wanted to put in this video, even if it's kind of slowed everything down. Wario's moveset is the perfect problem solver for these kind of challenges. His heavyweight offense is a perfect fit for non-linear exploration, as it was in the previous games. Carrying over is Wario's most iconic attack, a shoulder barge that takes out enemies from the front. He can also smash through walls like he's a glass jug full of Kool-Aid. Then there's ground pound that smashes through floor tiles, shakes the level, or takes out hard-headed enemies. If you knock an enemy over, you can pick them up and use them as a thrown projectile. This goes too for this cheeky rock, and this absolute pearl. Then there's little contextual movements like rolling down hills, turning Wario into a 1-unit high bowling ball that smashes through blocks you're usually too tall to reach. In fact, it sort of reminds me of the Metroid games with Morph Ball and not again. New to the series is a momentum-driven barge attack. Holding either the left or right GBA shoulder buttons, Wario breaks into a head-first sprint that wipes out small enemies and blocks. Give it a wide enough berth without impediment, and it charges up to break heavier obstacles as it becomes an unstoppable juggernaut. This kind of time-dependent charge even applies to throws and ground pounds. This run is a complement to the fast-thinking action you have to endure during the countdown sections. When all you want to do is power back to where you came from without a care, this is the perfect ability to do so. And thanks to the GBA's design, you never have to lift your thumbs from the face buttons or the D-pad while holding the shoulders to sprint. Actually, now I mention it, let's talk about why this is the perfect Game Boy Advance game. The Game Boy Advance, like its predecessor, was a pocket-sized adaptation of a classic Nintendo system, in this case advancing to the Super Nintendo's relative specifications. Many developers saw this as an opportunity to do straight ports of classic SNES titles to the GBA. Nintendo themselves sought to adapt Super Mario World and Yoshi's Island to the system with small control amendments, as well as the Super Mario All-Star adaptations of Brothers 2 and 3. But a minority of developers saw the opportunity to apply 10 years of learning since the SNES and some lessons they have learned since the dawn of the 3D age to have games that were on the absolute cutting edge of what 2D could achieve. Wario Land 4 is the poster boy of this line of thinking. The character himself doesn't just have extra detail in his look, but also his animation. His movement has a squash and stretch fitting of his heavy weight, and his body even distorts when he picks up speed or puts his force into a particular body part. Compared to the rather clinical look of Super Mario in his 2D titles, Wario is a character that extrudes charm even while he's doing very little. His enemies, and especially the bosses, also benefit from this graphical shift. They're gross. They dribble and crease. They have wrinkles and detail that you only really see in Nintendo's more mature titles like Metroid. The world of Wario Land 4 doesn't just come in the familiar shades of snow, lava and jungle levels. The developers play with more offbeat ideas, like a board game, domino run and pinball table with fitting aesthetics and mechanics. Even how they look and how they sound is nothing quite like Nintendo has done before. Where Yoshi's Island aimed for a consistent hand-drawn look throughout, Wario shifts through different art directions like faux 3D, cartoonish, and even photo references for its background elements. The soundtrack is just as eclectic, using the kind of sample-based audio that carries on the offbeat spirit of Earthbound. All of this sets the tone for what the developer would eventually build on with the WarioWare series. A game that shifts through style and tone nearly every 8 seconds. It uses what was once cutting-edge technology and brings it up to date, and shows that the Game Boy Advance wasn't just a Super Nintendo in your pocket. Wario Land 4 will take anywhere between 2 to 3 hours to complete. It clocks in at just under 20 levels in total, far less than any of the previous Wario titles or even any other Mario game. But in my opinion, it goes to show that the game has no bum notes. It's all killer and no filler. The high score driven nature of its level design also encourages replayability, because it's not just how quick you can complete a level, but almost how much treasure you can accumulate while you're there. It is a Wario game after all. Short and sweet is what Wario excels at. After all, you only have to look at the WarioWare games for how they can make an idea work with nothing but a prompt and a few seconds to execute on it. Why I'd rank it above Super Mario World is that there's no repetition to its cleverness. By establishing a very simple set of rules early on, it allowed the levels to take on whatever shape or scenario design the developers want. And even by breaking Mario conventions, it replaces them with something far more interesting. The side-scrolling presentation is only an interface for the kind of objective-driven level design more in line with something like Super Mario 64. The traditional flagpole has been turned from a simple congratulations for completing the obstacle course into a panic-inducing climax that recontextualizes the entire level. Progression isn't just about reaching that end either. There's chests and keys to consider in order to open the way ahead. And to get those, you're not just going to be jumping. You'll be barging, ground pounding, running headfirst into walls. You'll be turning into a bat or getting flattened into a disc to reach them. And the aesthetic definitely isn't clean, colourful and cute. It's weird, wild and utterly gorgeous. There hasn't been anything quite like Wario Land 4 since. Much like every game after Yoshi's Island, each successor has been far from successful in emulating the charm of what made their predecessors work. But to me, anomaly is what made them work. After all, without Super Mario, there would be no Wario. And without titles like Donkey Kong or Super Mario Bros. Breaking convention, video games definitely wouldn't look the same. So here's to Wario Land 4, an ode to breaking convention. Hello? Hi, hello, just give me 1 second. I've been meaning to do this for a little while, but I haven't had a video in a bit, so I will just do it now. I just want to promote a little podcast that I'm currently part of. It's called Game Over Time. Me and Ben, who's better known as Myers Codex on YouTube, basically given a very simple prompt to work from, and from there we have to come up with a weird and wonderful game idea. We think it's pretty great. We think you might think it's pretty great as well. I've got a link below for you to have a look at them and let us know what you think. And with that, thank you for watching and listening. If you want to support the channel or receive notifications of new videos, remember to press the subscribe button. If you want updates on future videos or want to know a bit more about me, follow me on Twitter. And if you'd like to leave any feedback, please leave a comment below. I try and respond to anything you post. That's all for now. Talk to you soon.